From childhood, Ju Kyung was the ugly duckling of the family and a victim of bullying. Isolated, she found solace in horror comics until high school, where even the unattractive girls avoided her company. Infatuated with a boy who worked at the school, the only one who spoke to her, she harbored false hopes and planned to confess her love with special cookies. She goes to school very excited, and her classmates unveil her gift, as the popular girls cruelly make the boy stop talking to her. So when she confesses to him, he is also cruel and tells her she is very ugly. To make matters worse, the popular girls continue to pick on her and everyone tells her she's ugly. This makes her cry inconsolably. And to make matters worse, everyone at school makes fun of her. So devastated and with no more reasons to live, she decides to attempt to end her life. However, at that moment, she sees an advertisement about some very young boys who died because of this, so she changes her mind. Enter Lee Soo-ho, who stops her just when she thought she was going to jump, also ruining her glasses. He brings her down and shouts at her, warning her about the consequences of committing that madness. Since she lost her glasses, she can't see anything, and that's why she tearfully asks him for help to go down the stairs. She falls, and he helps her again. The poor boy suffers because she won't stop talking, and she's also very heavy. Then, he puts her in a taxi, and she asks him to be happy, suspecting that maybe he was on the terrace because he lost a loved one right there. And she was right because he lost his friend that way, and that's why he saved her. So even though he's a rich boy, he's not happy. From that day on, Ju Kyung decides to wear makeup to be beautiful. But her first attempts are comical, and even scare her mother. With determination, she invests in makeup, watches tutorials, and practices to look beautiful at her new school. On her first day of class, Ju Kyung becomes the center of attention for her beauty. However, a student comes to the office where she was, and she finds him handsome even he is the best in class, not knowing that he is Soo-ho who saved her that day. In an unfortunate encounter, Ju Kyung accidentally stains Soo-ho with makeup, and in her attempt to clean the jacket, she ends up making things worse and is rejected by him. Despite this setback, Ju Kyung, thanks to her beauty and popularity, already has friends who make her happy. Meanwhile, Soo-ho, a lonely boy and lover of horror comics, can't stop thinking about Ju Kyung. In a curious twist of fate, they both coincide in a horror bookshop, where a fight over a book ensues. In the midst of the struggle, they fall to the ground, and it's at that moment that Ju Kyung recognizes Soo-ho. Ju Kyung can't believe it and feels embarrassed, but he only sees her as the girl he rescued. When she prepares to leave the comic book store, the owner stops her and offers her welcome ramen. Soo-ho sits beside her and gives her the book she wanted to read. As they converse, Soo-ho reveals that he is not from the area, which relieves Ju Kyung, as it seems he doesn't see her as the school goddess. Although he feels that destiny has brought them together again, he becomes saddened thinking that she seems to have forgotten the incident in which he saved her, as she doesn't mention anything about it. The next day, after classes, Ju Kyung is almost run over by Han Seo-jun, who is being chased. She activates the police alarms to drive away the pursuers. And when they come face to face, Ju Kyung gets nervous and accidentally takes Seo-jun's helmet out of fright. During the weekend, Ju Kyung meets Soo-ho at the bookstore, but there is a misunderstanding. He thinks she is pretending not to know him, while she believes he recognizes her despite her change in appearance. Ju Kyung convinces Soo-ho to sign a contract in which he won't reveal her secret in exchange for food and a book. They become friends thanks to their shared love for comics, and she gives him an old collectible card as a birthday present, which he values because it was his only gift. However, the story complicates when Seo-jun appears, the boy on the motorcycle who turns out to be Soo-ho's competition. Both are the most handsome and difficult boys to deal with in school, making them rivals. In class, Ju Kyung flirts with Soo-ho thinking he recognizes her. In the cafeteria, she brings him his favorite juice, and then she invites him to the rooftop to deliver his uniform. But she left a book there that gives her away, and she realizes that he doesn't know her secret, so she takes her bag saying they are sanitary towels. They have to work on the same team, and she can't stand the embarrassment. At night, Soo-ho calls her to ask for what he owes. She struggles between appearing as the ugly girl or made up. so she chooses to use the other guy's helmet as a smart solution. But when he mentions that she should give him the comic, she takes off the helmet to reveal her natural appearance. Although she is anxious to find out what secret Suho knows, he doesn't reveal anything. The next day, in the sports class, Seo-jun asks Ju Kyung for the helmet. She stumbles and Suho completely ignores her. However, the situation worsens when, during the celebration of her friend's 100 days of dating, Ju Kyung receives a cake in her face. Desperate to clean herself, she accidentally crashes into Seo-jun again, but she finds herself cornered once more. In a surprising twist, Suho saves her once again. Ju Kyung can't believe what's happening. He takes her to a bathroom and manages to make up again, but she still wonders why he helped her, spends the whole day traumatized, seeing him as if he were Dracula. Her day gets worse when he invites her to the bookstore. She's still scared in front of him, and even more when he tells her that there is a girl at school who looks like her. And although she tries to distract him, he already knows her true identity. She is shocked and can't deny it. When he takes off her hairband and glasses, he tells her that in his eyes, she's the same. The situation worsens when Ju Kyung's mother arrives and calls her by her name, causing her desperation. But it turns out she had revealed herself with the book, and he finds it amusing and keeps her hairband as a memento. Despite trying to adopt a tougher appearance at school to prevent Suho from revealing her secret, Ju Kyung ends up pleading with him to keep quiet. In exchange, she agrees to work for him and gets him what he needs, unaware that what he really desires is her company. So he invites her to a homemade meal on the rooftop that he never eats. But upon tasting it just like she does, he finds it delicious and enjoys her company. Although he involves her in the school talent auditions, Ju Kyung makes mistakes, like getting confused about the stage. Things like that make Suho unable to get her out of his head. When he asks her to bring him a book as an excuse to see her, Ju Kyung faces drunkards who harass her and dampen her spirit. She vents her anger with Suho, who instead of getting angry, acts kindly. He wraps her in a coat, goes out in the rain to buy band-aids, and apologizes for making her suffer. However, Seo-jun watches them from afar. The next day, Seo-jun starts mistreating Suho for the supposed death of his friend. He also approaches Ju Kyung, arousing jealousy in our protagonist. They both fight for her and for their past problem, but he can't bring himself to hit his friend. Days later, they both talk about the wound of why his friend took his life, but Seo-jun blames Suho, who has also suffered a lot from that loss. He reads comics again and remembers how Ju Kyung cheered him up as a child. Just then she arrives and cheers him up again. So yes, they've known each other since they were little. Suho tells her that she doesn't need makeup for him, and her heart races when she sees the wound on his lip. She touches it and gets so nervous that he sends her home. The next day, when Ju Kyung arrives at school, Seo-jun asks her if she's dating Suho, but she obviously says no. And in class, she sees them but doesn't believe they're dating, even though the truth is that Suho does like her, because he gets jealous when a friend organizes a date for her. After school, Suho follows Ju Kyung to the bus, and she mentions that she'll have a date because she's never had one before. However, he tells her that she has him now. Then he holds her to prevent her from getting hurt when the bus stops suddenly, and just then a robust boy sits between them. When she gets home and removes her makeup, Seo-jun arrives with his mother. She quickly applies a face mask so they won't see her acne, and he takes the opportunity to take pictures of her. On the other hand, Suho doesn't want to remove the lipstick mark she left him when the bus stopped. He even feels like kissing her. Ju Kyung has to put on makeup to go out, and Seo-jun reveals that she will go on a blind date, and she says she uses the motorcycle every day, and now she will watch him so he won't use it. The next day she gets pretty to go on her date. That same day, Suho decides not to participate in a math Olympiad to go watch over Ju Kyung. He can't stand seeing them together, but realizes he picked the wrong partner when the guy with Ju Kyung turns out to have a girlfriend. When she gets home, Ju Kyung's mother tells her that Seo-jun is a good guy who takes care of his mother, and that his father died in an accident. In addition, Ju Kyung receives a message from her date confessing that he already has a girlfriend, which disappoints her. The next day, Seo-jun arrives at school on his motorcycle. Ju Kyung takes pictures of him, but he blackmails her with the photo he took of her with the face mask. They end up running like children, which arouses Soo-ho's jealousy. Later, Joo Kyung tells her friend about the message from her date, and it turns out that Soo-ho pressured him not to play with her. Despite the playful fights between Joo Kyung and Seo-jun, Soo-ho arrives and stops them. At night, Joo Kyung attends a study group and, to her surprise, finds Soo-ho waiting for her. He helps her study and even accompanies them to karaoke, showing a new dynamic in their relationship. From above, Joo Kyung sees Seo-jun's motorcycle, so she goes down and starts hitting it because he used the motorcycle again. But he arrives at that moment. Seeing Soo-ho nearby, Seo-jun takes her to another place, where the harassers appear again. She drags him running, while Soo-ho arrives later to help them, ending up only fighting with everyone. After the fight, Joo Kyung has no money to return, and Seo-jun takes her on his motorcycle. Soo-ho sees them and reproaches them for arriving together, but his drunk sister arrives and they have to help her get home. When they are alone, our heroes wonder if they like Joo Kyung, but Soo-ho doesn't admit it. The next day he sees her arrive at school, and she looks beautiful, but his vision is ruined when Seo-jun starts flirting with her, and he doesn't want to let her go with him. But he doesn't dare to tell her how he feels, while Seo-jun doesn't waste time and gets closer and closer to her. But in reality, it's Soo-ho who accelerates her heart with small gestures. Although Seo-jun keeps pursuing her, that doesn't excite her. At night, Soo-ho wants to write to her, but doesn't and accidentally calls her. Her brother answers, and she is heard scolding him. When she realizes he's listening, she's very embarrassed, so she calls him back, and they agree to meet at the park. She finds him petting a kitten, and he tells her that that kitten is like him. There she learns that he lives alone, and she's surprised, but she's too embarrassed to ask him more. Then he sees a basketball and both start playing. She's clumsy and falls into his arms, but he takes advantage to hug her, making them blush and their hearts race. Then he accompanies her home, and they both still feel very nervous, but don't say anything about it. The next day he starts playing because he saw that she likes it when he does sports. Later, Joo Kyung helps a girl who is being bullied, and while waiting for the bus, she watches tutorials to help her. There comes Soo-ho, talks to her, and tells her that she is beautiful without makeup, making her heart race a lot. Then she invites him out by text, and he accepts. She can't believe he likes her. He goes back home and Seo-jun is waiting for him, and Soo-ho confesses to him that he likes Joo Kyung, so Seo-jun warns him not to dare to use her to get back at him. But he tells him that he likes her too. It's the day of the school festival, and it turns out that the girl Joo Kyung helped is Seo-jun's sister. She dresses up as a piglet to cheer up. Then she sees Soo-ho and tries to talk to him as always, but he tells her that he won't go out with her, that she should get it because she's ugly. That breaks both their hearts, but he does it so that Seo-jun won't tell her that he took his friend's life and hurt her even more. It's time for the rival basketball game. She's cheering in her costume, but with a broken heart. And he, because he can't stop thinking about his girl, asks Seo-jun to leave her alone. Later, Joo Kyung is with her friends, and a song starts by the boy who took his life, the protagonist's friend. Although Soo-ho wasn't guilty of his death, he feels like it because he didn't answer his friend's call before he committed this act. This traumatized him for life. When Joo Kyung sees him in that state, she tries to console him, but he doesn't let her. Seo-jun sees them and feels bad for her because he thinks she's a good person, and he's treated her badly. When Joo Kyung is at home, she notices a mark on Soo-ho's jacket and realizes that he was the one who pulled her off the rooftop. Now she understands how bad he must be feeling because of that. She goes to look for him on the same rooftop, thinking he might jump, but she finds him curled up crying, so she hugs him and accompanies him in his pain. He needed that because he never had someone to support him. However, suddenly, the situation takes a turn when a lot of people arrive shouting about a fire, and they have to leave the place. Despite the chaos, he continues to be tormented by feeling guilty about his friend's situation. In the midst of confusion, Joo Kyung tells him that sometimes it's necessary to cry and that he doesn't have to pretend he's okay. These comforting words leave him pensive. At the same time, Seo-jun also reflects on what he heard from Soo-ho the day he rejected her, sparking a special interest in Joo Kyung. It's report card day, and Soo-ho's father goes to the school. Everyone admires him for being a celebrity. But neither Seo-jun nor Soo-ho likes his visit. He doesn't like him because he didn't support his friend when he needed it. The next day in class, Ju Kyung and Soo-ho remain distant. In the afternoon, she meets her new friend, Seo-jun's sister, and they go to her house to teach her how to do makeup. There, Seo-jun comes out in his underwear, doing his iconic dance without knowing they had visitors. He pretends not to care, but he's dying of embarrassment. When she leaves, he thanks her for what she does for his sister, and she starts teasing him about his leopard print boxers. When she gets home, she finds Soo-ho there as a guest of her mother. She drops hints for him to leave, but he's very comfortable and doesn't want to go. They even have dinner together as a family, and her mother asks them to study together and also tells them she would be delighted if they were dating. But her family acts as usual. They're a total disaster. Ju Kyung is embarrassed. The next day, she goes to the sauna with her friend, and Seo-jun arrives. She doesn't know how to leave without him seeing her, so she waits until they leave. But her sister calls her by name in the cafeteria, so she runs out. Soo-ho has an emotional shock when he hears a phone ringing that brings back bad memories, and he gets off the bus. But he sees Ju Kyung going to buy food and is harassed again by her former classmates. He defends her like a true gentleman, but she gets upset because she thinks he's doing it out of pity. However, he speaks to her with a very warm voice and hides her from Seo-jun, who is around. He takes advantage of this to hug her and give her security, and also gives her his cap to camouflage herself. The next day, Seo-jun sees Ju Kyung's social media posts, and she arrives making leopard gestures that enchant him. And since Soo-ho is sick, he doesn't go to class. But she sends him a funny photo to cheer him up. At night, she is chased by Seo-jun's harassers, while he goes to see Soo-ho to confront him because he helped his sick mother, since he doesn't want anything from him. Then he receives a call saying they have her. Both run to save her and fight together like in the old times. Their friends also arrive to help. But at school, everyone is forced to write lines of apology. Afterwards, Seo-jun thanks Soo-ho for helping his sick mother. But he is so tired that he falls asleep on his shoulder. He leaves and meets Ju Kyung, who makes his heart race with her roars. Although she is happy with Soo-ho, he remains cold with her. Yet he invites her to study at a cafe. But there he falls asleep, and she feels like she's dreaming just by looking at him. Although she still meets Seo-jun at school and flirts with him. In the afternoon, Ju Kyung goes to a baseball game, and Soo-ho also goes. Now it turns out that the star player is also in love with her, and Soo-ho bursts with jealousy, so he practices baseball to lighten his anger while she meets the player. The next day, he looks for her at school and asks her to come to his game, and if he wins, she'll be his girlfriend. On the other hand, Soo-ho goes to her house but finds her crying, so he takes her to the bookstore. While they eat, she tells him she was crying because her mom threw away her makeup for not doing well on the exam. But he praises her for her effort, and he accompanies her home, where he sits her on his shoulder while he cleans her shoe. He approaches her as if he's going to kiss her, but gives her a hair clip instead. She's super happy. She can't calm her heart. Nervous, Soo-ho practices in front of the mirror to ask her out. But the next day he sees her friend who is sad, talks to her, and hugs her to comfort her. Ju Kyung sees them and misinterprets the situation, so she prefers to keep her distance even though she feels very jealous. At night, she meets Han Seo-jun to choose a gift for her sister, and Soo-ho calls her to see what she's doing. As she tells him she's at the mall, he goes to look for her to take her away, but Seo-jun doesn't let her, and they get trapped in the elevator. She manages to get out first, saying she's going to the bathroom, and escapes from both. But when leaving the mall, she meets her baseball star, and the two boys are frozen. Although later they go to the stadium to see if they find her, but she had already gone home and sees them on the screen celebrating like good friends just because the star will go abroad. After the game, they both confess to each other that they are in love with Ju Kyung. So Soo-ho buys a piece of jewelry to ask her out first. The next day they go on a school camping trip, and Seo-jun and Ju Kyung wear matching outfits, and the other boys think they are already a couple. They also sit together, and Soo-ho feels really jealous. He feels even worse when she avoids him all day and spends time with Seo-jun doing all the activities. He only watches her from afar. until one night, he invites her for a private moment. They both take a romantic boat ride with music. But while taking pictures, she falls into the water and ends up without makeup. He still hugs her to keep her warm, but people arrive, and he has to leave her alone. He goes to get her a gift, but it's too late. She has returned to the campsite. The next day, she's sick, and Seo-jun notices and takes care of her. When Suho sees this, he makes him get off the bus, and they both fight for her. It's talent night, and Seo-jun sings for Ju Kyung, but she only looks at Suho. However, she feels jealous when a girl sits next to him and distances herself from the group. Their talkative friend arranges to meet at the stream, but she meets her friend and, thinking he likes her, tells her to go. Ju Kyung meets Seo-jun and starts crying, thinking she lost him. He doesn't know why she's crying until she tells him. It's because she loves Suho, but he was actually looking for her, and seeing them together, he doesn't say anything. Later, he confronts her, thinking she likes Seo-jun, but she's without makeup, and all her classmates arrive, so she runs away. While Lee Suho helps her hide, she takes the opportunity to tell him that she's in love with him, and he gives her a romantic kiss. But suddenly, she runs away because she doesn't believe it. She feels like she's dreaming and doesn't know what to do, and he gives her a necklace to show that it's real, although he's also nervous. She unexpectedly opens up to him and tells him how madly in love she is with him and keeps running to the campsite. But she forgets she's not wearing makeup and runs happily to her friend's place. And even though she sees her like that, she doesn't judge her, listens to her, and encourages her not to feel inferior. She's still happy because she has a boyfriend who wishes her good night. They return to school, but she doesn't know how to act as a girlfriend and ignores him. But later, she explains that it's because she's afraid of his admirers, and she doesn't know how to tell everyone what's happening between them. After class, they go out to eat at a restaurant where supposedly no one will see them. But their classmates arrive, and Suho has to hide under the table so they don't see him. At night, he takes her home. The next day, as she had a bad night and couldn't sleep, she falls asleep at the bus stop, and she meets Seo-jun. She makes his heart race, and feeling embarrassed, she runs to school. In class, they're exchanging messages, and accidentally, she sends the picture of the two of them to the group gossip, but she manages to delete it. Although Seo-jun sees it, after school, she tells him they'll be criticized if people find out about their relationship. But to him, she's perfect. They go to the bookstore, but Seo-jun's sister is there, and they can't have their date there either. Ju Kyung looks for a job to pay for her studies, but Seo-jun is there, and she's invited to model with him. Since he finds her beautiful, the poses become very passionate. After work, they go out to eat, and she tells him she's Suho's girlfriend, but he tells her to think about her boyfriend, who would surely like to show her off. She returns home and talks to Suho on the phone, but he meets her father, who has left home and has no money, so he takes him to live with him for a day, and he likes the feeling of having a family that says goodbye to him when he goes to school. Seo-jun recommends Ju Kyung for a job, and she starts working, but she gets tired and feels very stressed. So Suho invites her to do sports to distract her mind and spend time together. When they finish, they go to his house, and he shows her his room, where he has all the memories with his friends and plays the song he composed. What they don't know is that her father is still at home, and he's hiding under the sofa. They almost kiss, and when he sees it's his daughter, he grabs him by the foot and wants to hit him. But Ju Kyung knocks him out with a frying pan. Another day passes, and she's unable to tell everyone about their relationship, so they meet at the bookstore. But she's still stressed because she feels inferior to him. It's the weekend, and she goes out with her friend, who purposely tells her to ask Suho out, and she can't tell her she's already his girlfriend. She even ignores his calls, and he thinks her father is mad at them. Ju Kyung goes to work, and Seo-jun is also working there. He can't hide his love and stays enchanted watching her tie her hair. Suho goes to visit her at her house, but her father tells him she's not there. It's night, and Ju Kyung returns home, but Seo-jun doesn't let her go alone. He encourages her to break up with Suho so she won't have problems with her friend, obviously because he likes her, and accompanies her home. On the way, they meet her mother, and she invites him to dinner. But her father has already invited Suho, and they put them to make dumplings. Now it's a competition for the best candidate to be Ju Kyung's boyfriend. Whoever makes the best ones will have her mother's approval, so they both get artistic and create works of art. Finally, Seo Jun wins. Soo-ho takes a moment alone to see how his girlfriend's day was. He sees a photo album of her when she was a child, and he keeps one. They argue about it, and they almost kiss. But they're interrupted by her father. Then they go to set the table, and Seo Jun tells Soo-ho that his girlfriend has been suffering all day and asks him for advice. That bothers him, and they start fighting. So her mother applies the method of cutting each other's nails and saying "I love you very much" to make peace. Soo-ho goes to the bookstore and realizes she was the girl who cheered him up. In the same place, fate has brought them together again. The next day, the pictures from the section are released, and everyone thinks she and Seo Jun are dating. That hurts Soo-ho, who asks for explanations since she doesn't tell him anything about what she does. She says she shouldn't be friends with Seo Jun, but she gets upset and reproaches him because he has a friend. They spend the whole day fighting, and at night, the girl visits Soo-ho, and he purposely answers the phone to keep Ju Kyung away and asks her out. But he rejects her and tells her he has a girlfriend. Later, he calls Ju Kyung, but she's hurt and doesn't want to talk. The next day, he visited her at her work and found her working with Seo Jun. So he gets upset and tells her he's tired of having to hide their relationship and that she must resign because he doesn't want her near Seo Jun. However, she is not willing to do that, and they become upset again. The next day, some artists come out singing his friend's personal song, and it turns out that the culprit behind it was none other than Soo-ho's father. This shatters him, and Seo Jun thinks he is also to blame, so they run out and are terribly hit by a car. Both are quickly taken to the hospital, while Ju Kyung gathers the strength to tell her friend that she and Soo-ho are dating. Once back home and makeup free, she keeps trying to reach out to him, but gets no response. She talks to her sister, and she informs her about the accident, so she rushes to the hospital. There she cries to the wrong patient, who is actually Seo Jun. When he asks who she is, Soo-ho covers for her, saying she's his cousin. He's in a wheelchair and hugs her because he regrets fighting with her. Also, he is saddened by the song plagiarism. He has to share a room with Seo Jun, and finally they talk about their past issues. The next day, Seo Jun's mother visits him and talks about them as if they were still best friends, revealing childhood secrets. When she leaves, he needs to use the bathroom, and Soo-ho has to help him pull down his pants. Additionally, he dresses him, and Ju Kyung finds them in compromising positions. She brings them some comics, and one falls. While helping to pick them up, her hair gets tangled, and when her brother arrives, he thinks they're up to something else. The next day, Ju Kyung can't concentrate in class thinking about him, while they help each other in the hospital as best friends. But when Soo-ho's father comes to apologize, he is very upset because his friend took his own life due to his mistakes, and he blamed himself all this time. Seo Jun and Ju Kyung are listening. Soo-ho has a panic attack due to the pressure, so Ju Kyung stays to take care of him. And Seo Jun feels ashamed for mistreating him all this time and for liking the same girl as his friend, so he no longer hates him. And as Soo-ho wants to get some fresh air, he carries him, and they have a conversation outside, clearing up misunderstandings. The news comes out that Soo-ho's father admits to the plagiarism, and Ju Kyung goes out to support her beloved because she knows how he feels. There she hugs him and tenderly kisses him. Meanwhile, her friend sees them with jealousy and envy. Later, they talk, and he tells her that he spent a long time holding a grudge against his father, and now he doesn't know how he feels. But there she is, accompanying him. Both are discharged from the hospital and go to Soo-ho's house, sharing as best friends. The next day, they go back to school together. But Ju Kyung is worried because there is a disciple of her harassers at school. Soo-ho notices and hugs her. By jealousy, her friend, who saw them kissing, approaches her to that girl, who turns out to be her former best friend who betrayed her out of fear. In the evening, Ju Kyung meets with Soo-ho and gives him many gifts, including yarn for knitting, and at home, he practices alone. The next day at school, her harassers show up, but this time she has the courage to defend the other girl because she knows how it feels. While Soo-ho knits, he asks Seo Jun for advice on understanding Ju Kyung and why she acts so strange. After classes, Ju Kyung tells him what's going on, but he reassures her. Now she's chosen to be the face of the school, and her supposed friend betrays her to embarrass her. She loses the necklace her beloved gave her when they became a couple, and she stays to search for it. He's also looking for it, but her friend has it and throws it into the fire, telling him that she's been in love with him for a long time, but he keeps rejecting her. He goes and buys another one because it's late, and he knows Ju Kyung won't give up until she finds it. She finds it, and he puts it on her like the first time. They are about to kiss when they are interrupted by the security guard, and they run away. They go to her house, but they don't know that her supposed friend gave her number and address to her harassers. But fortunately, Seo Jun took care of it. The girls show her photos of her without makeup, but he doesn't care. He breaks their phone and warns them to leave her alone, while our lovers end their day with a kiss in front of her house. The next day at school, posters with their photo are out, but also videos and photos of her without makeup. So her worst nightmare comes true. Now she doesn't even want to see Suho. The girls harass her and remove her makeup and tell her how she seduced Suho, but he arrives and defends her. She still runs away and gets on a bus. Seo Jun goes to confront the harasser, but the surprise is that she didn't do it. So the mastermind behind all this is the jealous girl who was supposed to be her friend, so he confronts her and scolds her for sharing those photos. It's nighttime, and Suho still hasn't found her. He's very worried about her, until he sees her coming home, but she goes in and starts crying, not talking to him. The next day he goes to look for her, but she won't go to class. At school, he takes down the posters and confirms that they are dating. She spends the day in her room, and Suho sends messages with his brother to get her to come out. But she doesn't go where he is. Instead, she goes to her supposed friend to ask her if she did it, hoping she didn't. But sadly, she admits she did it out of jealousy, and it would be better if she left the school. That leaves her worse off. But her mother and sister encourage her to move forward. Her mother makes her go out and tells her she will transfer her to another school. She goes to the bookstore and finally Suho can see her and make her laugh. She missed him a lot, and he takes her for a walk to a park where they talk, and he tells her that with or without makeup, she will be herself, that she is like fruits that may look worse, but are the sweetest and longest lasting. So she may feel ugly, but in reality, she's the best. On the way home, he gives her a doll to ease her worries, and when she checks her phone, she laughs at a video he sent her, singing and dancing very cutely. The next day, she goes back to school without makeup. Everyone is amazed to see her like this. When her harassers speak ill of her boyfriend, she confronts them to defend him and shouts to everyone that Suho is her boyfriend. And he gives her a little kiss on the forehead in front of everyone to show his love. He also hugs her because she was very brave. From now on, they no longer hide their relationship. Classmates don't judge her, and one of her friends defends her when the other tries to harass her again. Now she has a real friend and a cute boyfriend who loves her. She goes to rest, and Seo Jun observes her. She doesn't look ugly without makeup either, but he knows she belongs to his friend. After school, she goes out with her friends, and Suho can't resist that she hasn't written to him, but she falls asleep before she can do it. Now he's the one falling asleep. Even dreams that she leaves him because he's toxic. He calls her, but resists saying many things to not sound toxic and goes to train. There Seo Jun arrives, and since he wins the training, he makes him sing in public, takes him to eat, and encourages him to pursue his dream of being an idol. But his mood changes when Seo Jun tells him he would like to confess his feelings to Ju Kyung, and it shows when he goes to eat with her, but her presence lifts his spirits, and he ends up saying, "I love you" to her for the first time. She continues to strive for her makeup class and does very well. She passes the exam, then receives a call from Seo Jun saying he wants to tell her something. He takes her out to eat and tells her how he feels, but she doesn't pick up on the hints, so he bids his feelings farewell towards her. The next day, Suho gives Ju Kyung the scarf he knitted for her, and they have a couple's day, walking through various places, until they reach the beach. But Seo Jun receives a call because they've been trying to contact Suho and haven't been able to. His father got sick in the United States, and he doesn't know. He's having a great time with his girlfriend, so he goes there to inform him. That's why he has to take a flight immediately. Ju Kyung is sad, and he is too because they don't want to separate. She tries to be strong, but ends up crying inconsolably. It's been a month, and Soo-ho's father is still in the hospital. He planned to travel, but he got worse and had to stay. Joo Kyung waited for him at the airport, but couldn't make it. She starts a new school year, and he continues to take care of his father. When he gets home, he calls her, but her mother answers and tells him she's at the hospital. She probably felt unwell due to so much stress. So when he calls her again, he ends their relationship so as not to be a burden to her. But Joo Kyung doesn't want to end it, although it hurts him too. He thinks it's best because he can't take care of her as his girlfriend anyway. They both cry, but it's something they had to do. She goes back to the bookstore, and everything reminds her of him, even more when she reads what he wrote on the wall. Now she knows he was that boy, the one she read comics with, and he never told her. It's the first snowfall, and she writes to Soo-ho for the last time, telling him how she's been. 2 years have passed. Now she works as an assistant to a model who loves Seo-jun, and since she knows Joo Kyung is close to him, she bothers her. But he still takes care of her like in the old times, and she begs him to go out with the model so they leave her alone, but he can't because he still likes her, and he almost kisses her. The next day she finds him at her house because they're close as family now. But she avoids him because she remembers his confession. He reminds her of it and admits that he is indeed in love with her. She can't believe it, but he is planning how to formally confess his love to her. So he invites her to dinner, but she gets nervous because she knows what he might say, but still accepts the invitation. He picks her up from work and defends her from the model. He even brings her flowers, and they go to a restaurant. But they're very nervous. Still, he tells her straightforwardly that he likes her. He can't control it anymore. He asks her to see him as a man and not just a friend, but he didn't expect an immediate response. She comes home pensive but opens the memories of Soo-ho and feels very sad. She goes out to buy some sweets, and it's the first snowfall. She remembers that Soo-ho told her he would make a wish at the tallest tower, so she never forgets him and goes there hoping to find him. But no, so she leaves but forgets her wallet. And when she returns, he's there. She feels like she's hallucinating, but he approaches her and tells her he just arrived and came to see if she was there. He wanted to see her because he missed her too much. But she rejects him and tells him she didn't miss him and leaves. However, suddenly her belly hurts a lot, and he takes her to the hospital. He's worried and stays to take care of her. It turns out it was just constipation, and he feels very embarrassed, but for him, nothing has changed, and he tries to contact her, but she doesn't answer. Seo-jun visits him and remembers how Joo Kyung cries because she misses him. Even though he confessed to her, she didn't care. The next day, Soo-ho goes to her house early in the morning, but she continues to avoid him. He goes to her workplace, but she plays hard to get, even though she misses him when he leaves. Seo-jun looks for her to have one of their 3 remaining dates and takes her skating, but she continues to think about her beloved. Later, he sends her a message telling her to meet him at the comic book store where they used to read. Seo-jun accompanies her there and gives her a hug goodbye. Soo-ho sees them but doesn't say anything. Later, the boys go out for a drink, and Seo-jun tells her they are dating. Soo-ho is upset but pretends not to care. However, when he gets home, his heart hurts. Seo-jun also feels sad because he knows she doesn't love him. The next day, she asks to see him, but he doesn't want to because he knows it would be holding on to false hope. He hugs her goodbye and tells her that Soo-ho is returning to the United States that night. He stays behind crying because he really loved her. She runs to see him before he leaves and cries at his door, hugs him, and begs him not to go, promising never to leave him. He assures her he won't leave, and it was all Seo-jun's plan to bring them together and make his sacrifice worthwhile. She tries to run away because she feels embarrassed, but he takes her in his car and apologizes for leaving her. He also suffered a lot. If he came back and she didn't accept him, he would beg and try to make her fall in love with him again. But she also feels bad because she can't help him, and he's suffering. Their reconciliation is spontaneous because they were both waiting for each other. Our lovebirds are very happy and return to how they were before with their late-night calls. Joo Kyung meets Seo-jun, and they clarify that they will remain friends, and he apologizes because he knew she never liked him but needed to try. Soo-ho and Joo Kyung are now officially accepted by their parents. His sister-in-law offers him to re-enter the world of music with the original version of his song, and he records it while Joo Kyung continues to practice her makeup for a contest. Then she catches up with her friend, and they go into toxic mode when they're told they're going somewhere hot. But it turns out to be a sauna, and Soo-ho is drunk because he can't handle alcohol at all. With great effort, she takes him home and puts him to bed, where she sees the gifts she had given him. He puts her to bed so she won't leave, and tells her they are arranging the song for Seo-jun to sing. They spend time together, and she falls asleep. It's very late, so he asks her to stay the night. She nervously accepts, and what had to happen? Happens. Our lovebirds have a night of passion. He wakes up early and prepares breakfast for her, and seeing her hair loose, he looks for her hair tie and ties it up for her. Then he goes to the recording of the song and shares with Seo-jun, telling him he will study to become a composer. It's his sister's wedding day, and all the former classmates gather and enjoy the ceremony. Days later, Seo-jun's debut as a singer takes place, and Joo Kyung is assigned to do his makeup. He takes the stage, and everyone is proud, but especially Soo-ho, because this is how his friend wanted to hear the song, and if he were there, he would also be happy. And so ends this tender love story with our lovebirds closer than ever, reading comics like true enthusiasts, but in love, having the happy ending we all hoped for.